Next up, we have transitions, and these will usually be questions 22 and 23 on the SAT. I do have this PDF here, which I'll link in the description, that goes over a bunch of words that you might see on these types of questions. There is, of course, a small chance that one of these words you might see on like a practice question, for example, won't be on here, and in that case, just put them on here yourself. I don't know. It's gonna be pretty rare though, so yeah. Anyways, when it comes to transition words, it's gonna be super self-explanatory, because just like vocab words, you either know what they mean or you don't. So try getting really familiar with them and knowing how and when to use them. And this doc will be super useful when doing that, because it already breaks them up into these categories for you. For example, all these words right here can all be used to add on information. All these words right here can be used to contrast information, so on and so forth with all the rest. There are a few things I do want to point out though, other than just saying definitions, and that's all these words here, they all belong to contrast, right? So if I chose two of them at random, let's see, still and yet. If you had a question that looked like this, where an answer choice was still and another answer choice was yet, you can go ahead and just instantly know we're gonna cross them out. And the reason for this is because they're both contrasting transitions. None of them do the contrasting job better than the other. They both do the exact same job and have the exact same purpose, so we can get rid of the both of them. And if you remember the whole period and semicolon thing, it's the exact same thing. Now there are going to be two small exceptions when it comes to this rule. And that's with the words on the other hand and conversely. And it's just going to be with these two words alone, because these words might have a little bit different of a meaning. So let's say I had whereas and then conversely. You might want to hold off on just instantly crossing these out, because there is a small chance that conversely could mean something a little bit different, and in these cases you always want to go back to the text and look for context. The next thing is that with these sequence of events words, I mean, it's pretty obvious that you just don't want to instantly cross them out just because they're the same category. Because let's see, I had um, meanwhile, and then finally, I mean, meanwhile means at the same time, and then finally means the last thing you did at the same time, and lastly, those aren't the same thing, so you don't want to just instantly cross them out. And the second thing is with the word then. Now I said I wouldn't say any definitions, but I think it's super important to know that then has two definitions. This first one, of course, is when you say first you did an event and then you did another event. I ate rice, then I washed the dishes, like that. But it can also mean to refer back to a certain point in time. So what do I mean by this? Let's say I had the example I played Genshin when it came out. Then there weren't many guides. So first sense, I did something, then I did another thing. The second sense then is used to refer back to a certain point in time. So I said first, I played Genshin when it just came out, and back then there weren't many guides. So here I'm using then to refer back to a specific point in time. What I'm trying to get across with this is that if you see then in an answer choice, it might not match one of these definitions, but it could match the other. So keep an open mind and make sure you look out for that. Other than that, just know the definitions for all the other words, and you'll be good on these. Okay, I literally just searched up transition words, and this popped up, and I'm not gonna lie, it looks pretty good. So this definitely has a lot more transition words than the doc has, but it doesn't have it sorted. However, this is pretty good to find some words that you don't see on the doc, and you can add it to the doc and sort it yourself. That's only if you want to, of course. Here are 18 practice problems on transition words, and if you notice, these are a little bit different than the questions that I've been doing, because it doesn't have like that little header at the top with the difficulty and the type of question and all of that. So unfortunately, there won't be an answer key for this one. Technically, I could find the question on the database and then get the answer key myself, but that takes like a whole bunch of work, and for 18 whole questions, I don't know if I'm feeling up to that. For whatever reason, if I do, then I will put that in the description, but we're being for real. That's not gonna happen, so don't get your hopes up. Anyways, here's question number one. So the first thing you want to do is look at the answer choices. And we want to find out what category these transition words belong to, because if they belong to the same category, we can cross them out. So first we have nowadays, so this kind of like shows time, you know what I'm saying? Like nowadays, I take showers, you know, like back then I did because I play Genshin. I'm just kidding, I still play Genshin and I do take showers, just so you know. So I guess it's gonna be time. Then we have still, this one is for sure contrast because this is on that dog. I don't think nowadays is on the dog though. Conversely is also going to be contrast, and if you remember, even though these two are contrast, conversely is one of those special words, so I'm gonna hold off on just crossing these two out. But I will keep it in the back of my mind that these are both contrast words. Then we have fittingly. This one's also not on the doc, but like let me think about it. You know, like fittingly has the word fit, right? So if it fits, then like it matches. You know what I'm saying? Like it fits that I don't take showers because I play Genshin, right? Like it makes sense. So I don't think this would be in addition, and this could be potentially like saying that they have similarity, but like it could also show that they like have a connection. Um, so I'm gonna hold off on making and putting that under category in case I in case I say the wrong thing. But let's keep it in mind that you know like we kind of know what the word fittingly means. So then we're going to move to the text. So unfortunately, we do have to read the text. I mean, it's only 2 out of like 14 grammar problems. So yeah. And yeah, so let's start reading. In his essay, this guy explores a relatively light subject, but he addresses heavier fare in this other essay. Regardless of the subject, this guy works to question his own perspective, and his personal motto was, "What do I know?" Now we have the gist of what the text is, and we're gonna try and paraphrase it. We're gonna summarize it in our own words. And we're just gonna summarize the sentence before the blank and the sentence with the blank. So all this babbling right here, all this we don't need to worry about. So this sentence right here says that he is always questioning himself. In his essays, he's always questioning himself. And then it says his motto is, "What does he know?" Now, if you notice, these two definitely share some similarities. I mean, this one talks about how he's always questioning himself, and this one says his motto is literally him asking himself a question. So, with all that information being said, we can definitely cross out time. I mean, it doesn't say any dates in here, so it's definitely not nowadays. It's also not contrasting, because I mean, it's saying that it's kind of the same thing. It's not saying that they're two different things. So if it's definitely not contrast, so we can get rid of both of these. And then fittingly, I mean, like it makes sense. I mean, like it fits that his motto is him asking himself a question, because he's always questioning himself. So as you can see, I'm pretty bad at making categories, but as long as you know what the definition of the word is, that's like the really important thing. Question number 2, let's look at our answer choices and see what categories they belong to, because if we have two transition words in the same category, we can mark both of them out. Firstly, we have on the other hand, which is contrast, but if you remember, on the other hand is that one special word, so if we get another contrast, we're not going to mark both of them out. Then we have similarly, which is comparison, then, which is sequence, but let's also remember then has two definitions, so we're gonna keep that in the back of our minds. And then we have as a result, which is cause and effect. Why did that move over? Okay, unfortunately, none of them belong to the same category, so we can't mark anything out. But thankfully, these were all on that doc, so I didn't have to make up any stupid category like I did with the last question. Anyways, let's look at our text now. The World Cup, and there's two commas right here, so we can get rid of that because it's a non-essential clause. So the World Cup brought 32 teams from 6 continents to Brazil in 2014. And the event, there's two commas right here, non-essential clause. The event has greatly expanded greatly since it was played in 1934. The World Cup included only 16 teams. Let's paraphrase this. So in 2014, there were 32 teams, and then since 1934, it has greatly expanded, and this last sentence says there is only 16 teams. With the order of events, we can probably guess that this 16 teams is belonging to 1934. So it said in 1934, there was only 16 teams, but then it has greatly expanded, and now in 2014, there are 32 teams. With that, let's look at our answer choices and see what would make sense the most sense in this relationship. On the other hand, not really contrasting anything, so it wouldn't make sense. Similarly, yes, we are comparing, but I mean, they're not similar. I mean, one has 32 teams, the other has 16 teams, so no. Then, now if we were talking about the sequential definition, you can't go from 2014 to 1934, but if we're talking about then where it refers to a certain point in time, then yeah, it would make sense. Now, another way to think of this is that then when we're talking about the second definition is also equal to back then. It just doesn't have the back, it just doesn't have the back in it. They both mean the exact same thing, so let's plug it in. The event has greatly expanded since 1934. Back then, there was only 16 teams. So that does make sense, and C will be our answer. Let's check D for funsies though. As a result, okay, dude, like, it expanded greatly, and as a result, there's only 16 teams. So you're telling me that it expanded and now there's less teams. That's definitely not cause and effect, so no. Anyways, our answer will be C. Question number 3, let's look at our answer choices and see what categories they belong to. We have granted here, which means the exact same thing as however, so is contrast. Then we have furthermore, which is addition, thus, cause and effect, and similarly, comparison. So unfortunately, none of these have the same category, so we can't cross anything out. Let's go to text. So, modernista architects champion nature in their designs. Champion means support. The dramatic archways and glasswork of this home, designed by this person, couldn't exactly grow in a forest. Still, one sees natural influences in this person's penchant for curves and plant and animal inspired flourishes. So basically, these architects support nature in their designs, and even though they have all of these natural designs, they got these curves and plant animal flourishes, it still can't grow in a forest. So, it's basically saying, even though there's this one thing, it still can't be another. That's going to be contrast, so our answer is going to be A, because it's saying that even though there's nature, it couldn't grow in a forest. It's not going to be furthermore because it's not adding on information, it's saying two different things. It's not going to be cause and effect because let's think about it. If they have nature in their designs, it would make more sense that it can grow in a forest, not that it couldn't grow in a forest. So it's not going to be cause and effect. And it's not going to be similarly because once again, two different things, not the same thing. So our answer will be A. Question number 4, let's look at our answer choices and see what categories they belong to. By contrast, wow, I wonder which one this is going to be. Then we have sequence. Oh, well, next, which is sequence. In addition, wow, I wonder which one this is going to be too. Then we have that is. This one's be a little bit tricky, but it's going to be used the same way as in other words, which is going to be restatement. So this is when you're trying to reiterate something, we're trying to say the same thing again. I mean, that's like what restating is. Anyways, none of these categories are the same, so we can't cross anything out. Let's move to our text. In a study by this thingy, the researchers determined the ratio of 3 different plant subtypes within the diet of sheep. These 3 things. The researchers determined the relative quantities of the plant the animal consumed. So, it says 2 things here. The researchers determined the ratio of 3 different plant subtypes, and then it says the researchers determined the relative quantities of the plants the animal consumed. So, if you were to look at this, the researchers determined the ratio, the relative quantities. These 2 things are basically the exact same thing. They're just saying the same thing twice. So what would the answer be? It would be that is, because why is my circle red? Alright, it would be that. Whoa, that's way too dark. Alright, I don't know what happened to my circles, but the answer would be that is, because it's restating something. Now the reason it's not addition, alright, the reason it's not in addition, because it's not adding any new information. It's not saying something new. It's just saying the same thing again, but in different words. Question number 5, let's look at our answer choices and see what categories they belong to. Lastly is going to be sequence of events. In fact, will be emphasis. For example, wow, I wonder which one is going to be. And besides, which is going to be addition. So unfortunately, none of these belong to the same category, so we cannot eliminate anything. Let's move to our text now. Ecologists like this person use trophic pyramids to illustrate the food chain within an ecosystem. At a pyramid's base are primary producers, followed by herbivores, then omnivores and carnivores. At the fourth highest trophic level are apex predators. I think this one's pretty obvious. We have a base, so that's the first one. Then we are followed by at the second, then the third, and finally we have the fourth. I think this one's pretty obvious. I mean, it's just a sequence, so our answer is just going to be lastly. We're not emphasizing any point here. We're just saying the last one. And we're not giving an example, and we're not adding any information. Well, yeah, no, we're not adding on to anything, so it's not going to be D either. This one's just pretty obvious. Question number 6. Let's look at our answer choices and see what their categories are. Thus is going to be cause and effect. Moreover is addition. Meanwhile is sequence. And however is contrast. Once again, unfortunately, none of these categories are the same, so we can't get rid of any answer choice. Let's move to the text. In an analysis of 200 terms, researchers found a broad pattern of mutation in which negative adjectives saw a faster rate of cognate replacement. And if you notice here, there's a double dash, so everything in between is a non-essential clause, so I really do not care about all this babbling. Than other words, the adjective illegal would be expected to mutate faster than the noun crisis. So let's recap. Negative adjectives see a faster rate of cognate replacement. Alright, so basically these negative adjectives are mutating faster. And then after the blank, it says that the adjective would be expected to mutate faster. So this analysis says that adjectives will mutate faster. The sentence after says adjectives will mutate faster. That's going to be cause and effect. Another way you could get this answer is this keyword right here, which is the word expected. Alright, if you see the word expected, that basically means that it's going to be cause and effect as well. If we look at the rest of our answer choices, we're not adding on any information, nothing's happening at the same time, and we're not contrasting anything. So our answer is going to be A. Question number 7. Let's look at our answer choices and see what categories they are. However is contrast. Oh, indeed is emphasis. Second is sequence. And likewise is comparison. Once again, none of these categories are the same. And I think we're starting to see a trend pop up. But regardless, it's going to be still, I think it's still great that we're pointing out these categories. Because with more practice, we're going to get to the point where we don't even need to think about it. We'll just see the word and we instantly know. And it's going to be super good for saving time on the actual test. Anyways, let's look at our text. In the early 1970s, Albert Popa took up graffiti art, spraying his work onto what was at the time an unconventional surface, concrete. Albert's son David has chosen an unusual canvas for his new art project, Fractured. I'm gonna stop right there because we read the sentence before the blank and the sentence after. This guy, he did his art on an unconventional surface, and his son also did his art on an unusual canvas. So they both did the same thing. They both use unusual canvases, surfaces, whatever. So our answer is going to be D because it's comparison. It's not going to be A. It's not contrasting. If anything, it's the exact opposite. We're not placing emphasis onto anything. And then there's not really much of a sequence of events. Our best answer is D. Question number 8. Let's look at our answer choices and see what categories they belong to. Specifically is examples. In conclusion is sequence of events. However is contrast. And nevertheless is also contrast. So wow, I spoke of the dub when they finally did it. So we can get rid of both C and D since they belong to the same category. Let's move to our text now. The world's first airplane, and that's between two commas, was not very aerodynamic. As evidenced by its, okay, this is also a non-essential clause. It's a modifier because explaining why it's not aerodynamic, but that doesn't matter. All we need to know is that we can get rid of that. The Northrop F5 jet, two commas again, is far more aerodynamic. Its lift to drag ratio is more than twice that of the Wright Flyer. So, I mean, now that we got rid of all this extra babbling, we kind of, like, this is all we need to know. The first airplane, not aerodynamic. This jet, more aerodynamic. How is it more aerodynamic? Its lift to drag ratio is more than twice. So, it's explaining how it's more aerodynamic. It's by giving an example. So our answer will be A. A. Alright, there we go. And of course, it's not a sequence of events or anything like that. So there we go. Question number 9. Let's look at our answer choices and see what categories they belong to. In other words, is restatement. For this reason is cause and effect. Granted is contrast. And likewise is comparison. So it looks like the streak can start back up because none of these are the same category. We cannot eliminate anything. Let's move to our text now. With many elements, scientists were able to isolate a relatively pure sample of the substance shortly after discovering its existence. This wasn't the case with all elements. The process of isolating magnesium took years. So we can get that. Many elements you can isolate a pure sample really fast. But other elements, it can take years, right? Like magnesium, it took 53 years. Right? Even though I crossed it out, like it's just extra information. So basically, even though many elements you can isolate really fast, some elements you isolate really slow. Even though this still happens, one thing to another. All I'm trying to say is that it's contrast. So our answer is C, because it's contrast. All right, we're not restating the same thing. I mean, okay, this one's saying you can do it fast. This one's saying you can do it long. That's not the same thing. Cause and effect. Once again, fast and then long. That's not cause and effect. And then compare. That's two different things again. So our answer is C. Question number 10. Let's look at our answer choices and see what categories they belong to. Of course, is emphasis. Less is cause and effect. Furthermore, is addition. And similarly is comparison. Unfortunately, none of these belong to the same category, and I think I just jinxed it with this last question up here. Oh, I meant the question before that. Yeah, with this question. But let's look at the text. Modernista architects champion nature in their designs. The dramatic archways and birthday mosaics of this house, there's two commas, couldn't exactly grow in the forest. Still, one sees natural influences in this person's penchant for curves and plant and animal inspired flourishes. So, let's recap. Architects champion nature. Remember, champions mean support. So architects support nature in their designs, and the designs of this house couldn't exactly grow in the forest. Still, you can see natural influences in them. So there's this house, and it has all these nature-inspired designs, but it still couldn't grow in a forest. Of course, it would make most sense to use contrast, but we don't have a contrast answer choice option here. So we're gonna have to do a little bit of thinking. Alright, let's start off with A. Architects support nature in their designs. Of course, these designs still couldn't grow in a forest. And it makes sense. I mean, it's saying that obviously, even though this house has all of these natural designs, it still can't grow in a forest. So that would make sense. Let's mark this. Cause and effect. These architects support nature, thus, these designs of this house couldn't exactly grow in a forest. That doesn't really make sense, alright? That's not really cause and effect. If anything, it should be the exact opposite. Since there's nature, it should be able to grow in a forest. So it's not going to be D. If we look at C, architects support nature in their designs. Furthermore, the designs of this house couldn't exactly grow in a forest. Yeah, no, it's not adding on to anything. I mean, this one's talking about supporting nature, and this one's talking about how it can't grow in the forest. Nah. And then similarly, these two are not similar at all, bro. One's talking about supporting nature, one's talking about not growing in a forest. It's definitely not going to be D, so our answer is going to be A. Now, I've been holding off on saying this, but this question should look super familiar, and the reason for this is because it's actually the exact same question as number 3. Alright. The only thing they changed was the answer choices, and even then, if you look at the answer choices, furthermore, thus, and similarly, it literally stayed the exact same thing. The only thing that changed was this one transition word, alright? They changed it from a course from granted in this one, and they changed it to a course in this one. Alright, and the reason for this is because this question right here, this one was actually on the the March one. It was on the March 2024 SAT. And this one was on the May 2024 SAT. So what I'm trying to say is College Board literally recycles these passages. And they even recycled the answer choices, man. All they did was change one answer choice, and on another question, they might move the blank around, alright, or something stupid like that. So if you see another question that looks similar, alright, that's why. And this will also show up in math as well. So if you understand the math concepts in all the practice questions, you're basically set for the actual SAT. Because more than likely they're gonna reuse the same question. They're gonna change like one number though. Instead of x plus 5, they're gonna change it to x plus 7. Alright, but if you know how to get to that, that's light. Question number 11. Let's look at our answer choices and see what categories they belong to. In other words, is restatement. Similarly, I don't even know how many times we've seen similarly. That's comparison. For this reason is cause and effect. And nevertheless is contrast. I think Ashik is definitely starting back up because all of these, none of them have the same. So let's move the text. Before the first railroads were built in Australia, I was about to say America, engineers warned against using multiple track widths across the continent. Regional officials couldn't agree on a single width system. Thus, railways in Victoria were made using wide tracks, while those in New South Wales were built with narrow tracks. So, this first sentence says right here, engineers warned against using multiple track widths, and the second sentence says regional officials couldn't agree on a single width system. So basically, these guys are saying, hey look, I don't like multiple track widths, alright? Use single track widths. And then these guys are like, well, I don't like single track widths. I want to use multiple track widths. Alright, so these guys have completely opposite views. So even though they want this, these guys are doing that. This is one thing, this is another thing. I'm just battling at this point, but what I'm trying to get across is that it's contrasting. So answer is D, it's nevertheless. Let's just look at our answer. Our other answer, our other answer choices. Okay, it's not restating something. It's saying the exact opposite thing. If anything, it's not similarly. Once again, it's the exact opposite thing, and it's not cause and effect. All right. These guys are saying don't use multiple track widths, so you would expect the regional officials to say, hey, look, I won't use multiple track widths. That will be cause and effect. But no, they're doing the exact opposite. All right. Why are they being honest? Why they get be like that? Okay. I trust the engineers, man. Okay, that's a little off topic, but our answer is D. It's contrast. And if you look down here, it says wild, too. I mean, wild tracks and then narrow tracks, then you have wild. That's also contrast. All right, there we go. Question number 12. Let's look at answer choices and see what categories they belong to. However, is contrast. Moreover is addition. What the? Okay, whatever. Accordingly is cause and effect. And just keep the pattern. Similarly is comparison. Unfortunately, none of these are the same, so let's move to the text. Legislators in Ethiopia are elected by the system, and in the system, the seat is awarded to the candidate who receives not a majority but a plurality of votes. If several popular candidates are vying for the same seat, it is possible for a candidate to win an election despite receiving less than 50% of the votes. So it's saying that in this system, the candidate wins not by majority but by something else. You don't care what this something else is, it's just not by majority. And then right here it says that a candidate can win even if they have less than 50% of the votes. So this one, once again, you don't need a majority to win, and this one you can win if you don't have majority. It's literally just saying the exact same thing. So this would be restatement. But if we look here, there's no restatement. But cause and effect would also make sense. It's saying that you don't need a majority, and it's then saying that you can win if you don't have majority. Cause and effect would make sense here. It's not contrast. It's not saying two different things. It's saying the exact same thing. Same thing here. We're not adding on information. We're saying the same thing again. And the reason it's not similarly, even though these two do look pretty similar, is because similar compares two examples. But there's no other example here. It's just saying less than 50% of the votes. That's one example. There's no second example, so we can't use similarly. Our answer will be C. Question number 13. Let's look at our answer choices and see what categories they belong to. Hence is going to be cause and effect. Subsequently is going to be sequence of events. Meanwhile is also going to be sequence of events. And similarly is going to be comparison. Now these two are in the same category, but if you remember with sequence events, they have different meanings, so we can't just cross them out. Like first and last, they mean different things. Subsequently and meanwhile, they also mean two different things. Subsequently means after, and meanwhile means at the same time. So, yeah, they're different. Let's look at our text now. In an analysis, researchers applied a model to a set of words to infer the rate of cognate replacement. Double dashes? Even though I know it's really hard to see, there's double dashes, so we can mark all this out. In Indo-European languages, the researchers found that negative adjectives like homeless evolve most rapidly, negative nouns evolve most slowly. So, they use this model to find the rate of cognate replacement. That's kind of babbling, but the main part down here, adjectives evolve rapidly, nouns evolve slowly. So, it's talking about two different things, and that's going to be contrast. Yeah, there's no contrasting options here, so we're gonna have to dig a little bit deeper. Let's look at cause and effect for hence. It wouldn't make sense for it to be cause and effect, because just because adjectives evolve rapidly, that doesn't mean that nouns have to evolve slowly. That's not a cause and effect relationship between the two. So it's not gonna be A. Adjectives evolve rapidly, nouns evolve slowly. Nouns aren't gonna be evolving slowly after adjectives. It's not gonna be subsequently. Meanwhile, adjectives evolve most rapidly. Meanwhile, nouns evolve slowly. That does make a little bit of sense. It kind of sounds right. But meanwhile can also actually mean contrasting. All right, like let me give a little example. All right, my cousin. All right, my cousin is in Vietnam while she's having the time of her life. Meanwhile, I'm here recording SAT videos at 8 a.m. So as you can see, yes, it's meanwhile. Yes, it's at the same time, but it's talking about two different things, so it is kind of contrast. Oh, that's so sad to say that out loud. Alright. And then we have D, which is similarly, these two are not similar at all, right? This one's talking about fast, this one's talking about slow. They're not similar. So our answer is C. Now, if you look, once again, the whole analysis and cognitive replacement, whatever, this one looks a little bit similar, right? That's because it is, alright? It's literally the exact same as 7. Wait, is it not 7? Wait, which one was it? Oh, it was 6. Okay, it was the one right before. Okay, I can't count. Alright, we already know that. But it's 6. Like, once again, right here, we have the same whole. Let me erase all of this. We have the same whole cognitive replacement thing again, alright? And we're even seeing the whole negative adjectives thing again. The only thing they changed was 200 terms. They changed up the answer choices a little bit. And they changed up where they put the blank. And they changed up a little bit of words, right? But as you can see, it still kept that whole 2022 analysis part. And that whole cognitive replacement part. And all that stuff. So, once again, these passages, they are, they are recycled. Question number 14. Let's look at our answer choices and see what categories they belong to. Soon, that is sequence of events. Regardless, this is contrast. However, it's also contrast. And specifically is examples. Now we do have two contrast words here, and they aren't one of our special words like on the other hand or conversely. So we can go ahead and get rid of both of them. Hooray. Let's look at our text now. In the 1880s, inventor improved on Edison's design for the light bulb. This guy made the light bulb more durable by placing cardboard around its carbon filament. With this innovation, he became the first black inventor to contribute to the electrification of the world. So here it says this guy improved upon the light bulb, and then he said he made the light bulb more durable by placing cardboard around it. So it kind of gives an example of how he improved on it by placing cardboard around it. So, I mean, there you go. It's specifically because it gives an example of how he did it. Yeah. And it's just not sequence of events, you know. It's D. Okay, I should have explained why it's not soon. Like right here it says in the 1880s he improved on it. So like we're not like changing times or anything. It's literally just in the 1880s. So like there's no soon. I mean, it's literally just in the 1880s. Yeah, is D. It's an example. Why am I still saying this? Question number 15. Let's look at our answer choices and see what categories they belong to. Like, wow, I wonder which one this is gonna be. Nevertheless, that's contrast. Consequently, cause and effect. And what's more is addition. Once again, we have two contrast words and they're not on the other hand or conversely, so we can grade up both of these. Let's move to text. Soil polluted with chromium is harmful to many plants and animals, but the plant species thingy can thrive in such conditions. As a mental hyperaccumulator, this plant absorbs a large amount of chromium and okay, I'm not sure. In its roots, no, that's sequesters in its that's a verb, thereby reducing concentrations of this harmful substance in the soil. So let's let's that was a challenge, but let's look at this first sentence. Here it says that this chromium is harmful, but this one plant right here can thrive in it. And not only that, this plant right here, it absorbs it and then it sequesters it so it can reduce concentrations of this harmful substance. So this plant does two things. It thrives in the soil with this chromium, and it also absorbs the chromium and it reduces the concentrations of chromium. So there's two thingies here. And since we have two thingies, it's what's more, because we're adding information, right? First we said it thrives, then we said that it reduces concentrations. That's two. It's not cause and effect. And man, you would think it's cause and effect, because like, oh, it can thrive, right? Because it does this. But no, that's not right, guys. That's not right. It can't thrive because it can absorb the chromium. I mean, if anything, it'd be the exact opposite. I mean, like, if you're drinking poison, would you be able to thrive? Like, no, like, what? Like, if you're smoking toxic, if you vape, okay, that's off the. Anyways, it's okay. I'm getting a little off topic. I'm getting too off topic here, but it's not cause and effect. It's addition. We're adding information. Question number 16. Let's look at answer choices and see what categories they belong to. However, is contrast. Moreover, is addition. Sometimes, like sometimes that's like every now and then, and once in a while. So that's time. Yeah, I'm making up categories now, but what's important is not the categories. It's that you know the definition. The categories are meant to guide you there. Yeah, I'm just coping. Anyways, thus is cause and effect. And none of these match, so let's look at the text. With many elements, scientists were able to isolate a relatively pure sample of the substance shortly after discovering its existence. But this wasn't the case with all elements. The isolation process took years. The element uranium was discovered in 1789 but not isolated until 1841. So here it says scientists usually they can get this pure sample shortly, but sometimes it takes years. Like this isn't the case with all elements. Sometimes it takes years. And it gives you an example. This element, uranium, took like 60 years. No, 50. 50? I think that's it. No, that's 40. Okay, I can't do math, but like it took a long time, right? So our answer is sometimes. I mean, I literally accidentally said sometimes. I mean, I don't know how else to explain it. I mean, like I think this question is just pretty obvious. It's pretty easy. Sometimes isolation process take years, and then yeah, okay. I'm getting tired of babbling, so let's just move on to the next question. Question number 17. Let's look at answer choices and see what categories they belong to. For instance, is examples. In other words, is restatement. Thus, is cause and effect. And alternatively is, like an alternative is another option, right? So like that's another option. So like it could kinda be contrast, you know what I'm saying? I don't even know anymore. I think I'm actually going to, and I'm gonna just leave that blank. But out of these three, none of them are the same, so we can't mark anything out. Let's go to the text. A band might choose a name that is as unique and original as possible. They might name themselves after a recognizable song by a favorite band. This is what the Swedish pop rock band Roxette did when they named themselves after the song Roxette by Dr. Feelgood. So here it talks about two ways a band can name themselves: as unique and original as possible, or after a recognizable song. So since we have two options, we have another option for the first one, like that's an alternative. So it's alternatively, you know what I'm saying? I don't even know anymore. I think as we get to the end, these questions are getting easier, and I'm actually starting to tweak. But oh my goodness. Anyways, it's not for instance because I mean a recognizable song is not unique and original, so it's not an example. These two are two different things, so we're not restating the same thing. And cause and effect, I mean, once again, a unique and original song, you would not choose a recognizable song then. That's not unique, alright? That's not cause and effect. So our answer is alternatively because like they do give an alternative, because they give another option of how a band might name themselves. Yep. Yeah. Question number 18. Let's look at answer choices and see what categories they belong to. Accordingly is going to be cause and effect. Besides, a little interesting, but I'm gonna say addition. In other words, is restatement. And however is contrast. Contrast. Alright, now these match, let's look at our text. With over 5 decades of hit singles, including lately from the album Hotter Than July, Stevie Wonder looms over the history of pop music with near peerless talent and longevity. In 1989, his legacy earned him one of the music industry's top honors, a spot in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So, Stevie Wonder is the GOAT. Alright, he got hit singles, he looms over the history of pop music, he has peerless talent and longevity, and as a result, this legacy earned him a spot in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So I just said it, but as a result, our answer is going to be accordingly because it's cause and effect. Alright, I just slept for 8 hours, so hopefully my head is a little bit clearer now. But that was 18 practice problems on transitions. I know I was going a little crazy at the end, especially with the whole category thing, but hopefully you can still see that it's going to be still super easy to solve these questions, as long as you know the category or the definition. But mainly their definition, because like this question right here, I don't know how long I spent trying to figure out what the category for alternatively was, but I'm pretty sure we all know what the definition is itself. So if you already know the definition, you don't really need to worry about trying to find out what its category is. The category is really just meant to help you point you towards the right direction, but once you get really good at transitions and you get familiar with all the definitions, you can save yourself some time and you don't really need to think too much about the categories. Anyways, we just have one more part left of the punctuation section, and then after that, that will be the easiest part of the SAT down. Bye, I'll see you.